And zooming ahead without a time machine, AEW Dynamite from, where were they? They said what town they were in now for Ohio, weren't they?
Yes, I think they were in Cleveland.
No, not Cleveland.
Columbus. That's where they were. Right in the middle of the state. Al Haft territory.
Frankie Williams territory.
You know, I recently found out Al Haft looked like the most interesting man in the world in those liquor commercials.
Really?
Yes.
Did he wear a sash?
Yes, he had an ascot.
An ascot, wow.
He was wearing an ascot and had the silver hair. It was amazing.
Silver hair?
And also a purple, like crushed velvet smoking jacket.
This is Al Haft you're speaking of.
Yes. I was sitting right next to him at the time talking to him. Anyway, so the opening of Dynamite on August the 9th was the Jericho Appreciators mandatory meeting that they have called to discuss the way that Chris Jericho's been treating them and his lack of caring about their individual wants and needs and feelings and emotions. And you had Mac Daddy, and you had Anna Jay, and you had Ty Mello Conti, and you had Sammy Guevara, and Danny Garcia, and Cool Hand Luke, and Hatless Hager. What does Hager do here?
I can't answer that. How do you want to answer that? He hasn't had that hat in forever. That's still the only thing about him that's over.
What is his purpose?
Jericho likes him. That's the purpose. That's why he got his job. That's why he's been there this whole time. That's why he has that contract. He's Chris Jericho's guy. Period.
Well, not anymore, because he's about to quit. Jericho came out in a magenta leisure suit, and as their friend. He wanted to talk about being their friend and all he's done for him, and Garcia shut him up. He was mad about getting hit with the bat last week. Jericho never chooses them, always chooses himself. He quit and he walked out. And then Hager, with all the personality you would expect from a rusty oil drum, said that he wasn't surprised about Garcia walking out. He's still talking about his hat. He mentioned his hat. He doesn't appreciate Jericho anymore, and he walked out. And hopefully Tony met him with a termination notice at the curtain. And then Jericho pleaded with the rest of them to think about what he's done for him. But Ty was feeling sick, and it wasn't just the ongoing medical situation she's got going on. She said, I'm going to go away and have my baby and come back next year. I quit. So thank you for coming. And then Anna Jay said that she's going to win the women's title that night, not appreciate Jericho, and she left too. And then Cool Hand Luke told him off kind of in the best fashion of anybody so far, with more emotion and a better promo, and he quit. And then Daddy Mac cried and squealed about the last 18 months being his lifelong dream, but a lot of his friends hate Jericho, and now he understands why, and he left. And then Guevara slapped the microphone out of Jericho's hands and told him off. And then he said, I'm not going to walk out because I'm your friend, but if you work your shit out, maybe I'll be here. And then he walked out. And Jericho was left standing there. So apparently, the Jericho Appreciation Society is no longer going to be appreciating Jericho.
The whole thing was stupid from the get-go. Putting them together as a faction with that name, they're supposed to appreciate him, who's doing the worst work of his career. This whole segment was a bad Monday Night Raw segment. It was Chris Jericho unleashed. Everyone got to do their bad acting and then dramatically walk off. This was so bad, and it lasted a long time.
Long time.
If it all leads to Chris Jericho turning babyface on Don Callis to be appreciated by the appreciators, it's stupid. If it's so that Jericho could become a heel, we'll see. But Chris Jericho's work has been substandard for quite some time, specifically the booking around it. And this was just lame. I mean, this seemed like a lame Raw segment, the kind of thing that Jericho would have had Vince reject, and he brought it here.
But at least they didn't have any potted plants.
That's true.
They should have had a meeting in the therapist's office. Shitstain could have written that. He could have brought Stevie Richards back and give him a doctorate. And
what did you think of this? What did you think of starting the show with this? And then, like I said, just the dramatic one at a time, everyone, like the Muppets leaving Kermit in Manhattan.
Well, yeah, and that's when I saw them in the ring, I'm like, what the fuck? Because they advertised the Hardys versus the Buckaroos. And honestly, I thought they would put that on first because they now know that the highest rated part of the program almost always on Wednesday is the first part, the first segment. And I figured that they would want to do that then, not only to hook people with the biggest marquee thing they might be able to put together, but also so the Buckaroos wouldn't have to taste the ignominious defeat of losing viewers somewhere else in the program. But I guess Jericho won the coin flip in Tony's office, and he got to go first, and they got to go second. But no, you said it. It was a bad Raw segment. And if there was 2 or 3 guys that he had really been tight with and hadn't been teasing all this dissension for so long, it might be one thing. But when it's 7 people or whatever out there, and they've all been pissing on him for weeks because he's blowing them off, you knew what was going to happen, and it took a long time for it to happen.
But like with Raw, not Raw, but SmackDown, WWE, not that I'm the biggest fan of these kind of things, but they work considering what it is. With the bloodline, it's not never, but very often, instead of just Roman Reigns will be here, it's Roman Reigns will be here for, tribal spelling bee, like something that's been going on. With Jericho, it's always that. It's always, there will be an inner circle conference of champions, or there'll be the Jericho Appreciators public meeting.
Yes.
It's always these bad segments, and they're always bad. They're always bad.
I'm bad, Shaluba, 'cause I'm bad. I'm Jericho, I'm bad.
It's my booking.
And I'll cry if I want to.
It's a completely different song. You just went to Leslie Gore.
You would cry too if it happened to you. So Renee Moxley-Good was in the back after the break with Chris Jericho and Don Fallis. And Don is apologizing if he played any part in what just happened. And Jericho said, I made up my mind about whether I'm going to join your family or not, Don, and I'm going to announce it next week. So we get another big announcement about another group he's going into. And then...
Wouldn't it be funny if all the appreciators join Callis?
That would be great. Now the family is bigger than ever. But Chris, we don't have room for you at the table. Did you notice that they had a package of FTR challenging the Buckaroos from Saturday night's Collision, and it took 20 whole seconds?
Yeah, and we did say that they need to recap a lot of the stuff from Collision a little more this week than previous weeks just because of SummerSlam running up against it. So I thought they would have showed a little more of this stuff.
Well, this was a little. They showed a little. It took about 20 seconds. And then came the Cucamonga Kids and their dream match against Matt and Jeff Hardy. And
Hardley versus Hardy.
Explain this to me. Explain, besides the fact that they just wanted to work with the Hardys, and you would imagine at some point in time that this would have been a ratings mover. But I think that would have been a year ago when they had first reunited Matt and Jeff, or whenever that was. It could have been a big match on pay-per-view if that was the first time the Hardys were back together. It could have been a big rating on TV, pushed several weeks in advance if it was, as I said, a year ago and the Hardys had just got back together. But they got them together. They put them in meaningless undercard drivel. Then Jeff got arrested again. Then he was off. Now he's back. And it's not even a hot TV match. But when the Buckaroos came out to ringside, they were kind of baby-facing and slapping some hands. The fans in the front row tower over them.
They're not getting pops like they used to, are they?
No, but also, who was the baby faces? And who was supposed to be the heels? If the baby faces were the Hardys, because Jeff gets the biggest reaction of any of the people in this match, then why did they have Isaiah Cassidy and the other Page at ringside with them? The Bucks came out alone, but then Brandon Cutlet snuck down there. He was there by the time the thing was going. If Page just switched babyface against MJF, why is he in the corner of guys unless they're the babyfaces? And why do the babyfaces feel the need to have all these guys in their corner? And if the Bucks are the babyfaces, then why were they getting heat on Matt Hardy in the match? And what the fuck? And then they let the Hardys shine for the first, shine in quotation marks, for the first part of the match. But Jeff, I'm sorry, but he was a step slow or a step behind or a step off or out of sync. And Matt is still trying to do the delete thing, but didn't he do the delete thing when he dressed up like the love child of Vincent Price and B. Arthur?
It's all he has. It's that and tagging in his brother. That's all he has.
But I mean, it wasn't a good match at the start. And Jeff every time he does something, he looks like he's in pain. And then after that kind of fell apart, the Buckaroos took over to start the heat, and they did all the same shit that they usually do, but at least it was action and they weren't lost. So the people kind of came up. But, and there was, it went back and forth. People went crazy for whatever Jeff mostly did. And he didn't fall off the ropes anymore like he did last time. But finally, Maddie and Nikki hit the double shitty knee lifts on Matt, 1, 2, 3. And then both teams shook hands and hugged. And Cutlet started spraying Jeff with the cold spray. And I don't understand this whole interaction. And then the Buckaroos get the microphone in the ring, and instead of speaking like humans, they got mean faces, and one of them growled, FTR.
Which is copying what FTR did. Cash just said Young Bucks into the mic, and that started it.
Well, yeah, but he didn't put on a mean face and like he was fucking a kid mad because he didn't get dessert. Do they think, you can tell they think that when they put on these mean faces and the growly voices that somehow they look intimidating or like they could possibly, in any non-phony enterprise, whip any grown adult person or even whip cream with an outboard motor. And it looks so ridiculous. And then FTR's music played and they came to the ring and they just did a face-off and nobody said anything. And there was a small smattering of "this is awesome" from some ringsiders. And then Nikki said, "all in." And that was it. FTR never said anything. The other two are children trying to act tough on the playground. And we've got to watch the best tag team in the world stooge for these fucking nitwit children again. Instead of having a big return match 3 out of 5 falls with gin and juice. And nobody wants to see this anymore. The time was there when they could have put all the belts on FTR, which is what they were pointing toward, until the Bucks swerved everybody by making Tony make 6-man belts so they could play with their friend, and refused to do the job for FTR when the time was right.
Because they knew if they held out long enough, FTR will do the job for them.
Yes, but now the match doesn't mean anything. The discussion has been ended on who the best tag team in the world is, and the Bucks ain't in it anymore.
That's right. And
now they want to go and get their win back.
And again, we haven't seen them in pure tag team competition in quite a while. This was the first time on Dynamite I could think of in forever, and it wasn't an impressive match, and they didn't get an impressive reaction from the fans. Omega gets a big reaction. Can't be denied. They don't get the reaction he gets. They don't even get the reaction FTR gets. And it was like that before when they had their hissy fit and decided they didn't want to work with FTR. FTR got their deals. Young Bucks got their deals. Young Bucks got better deals. There's no way they're going into Wembley. Remember that story early on? The Bucks met with Tony in London. They were over there wrestling, and he was over there for the football club. And they met up, and he took them. I don't know if it was Wembley. I thought it may have been the stadium that his team plays in, but took him to a stadium and said, wouldn't it be great if we started this up? One day, we'll be able to run something like this. There's no way they're going to lose. They're going to fly their whole families over there for this. So they could see the Young Bucks celebrating Wembley, forcing themselves into the picture, where again, FTR is having another stellar year, and now all of a sudden everything's going to change. It's either going to be FTR losing, and I'm sure they will. They're good boys. You know, they got their deal. They'll do whatever they have to do now. There's no way the Young Bucks are going to lose. The only other thing would be if the Young Bucks got their deal and said, okay, Tony, you're making a big investment in us, our families. I mean, Matt Jackson's fucking wife has a job. We'll do business. And then Punk interferes. Because if Punk interfered and costed them the match, and FTR has the third match, the rubber match,
yeah,
then you got something massive going into Chicago a week later, and who knows what else in the coming weeks and months.
That'll never happen.
Those are the two options right there. Either they're going to go over FTR just because they want personally that moment in London, because again, this match just doesn't seem like the time right now. The third match with Gin and Juice does, I'm not saying that's a Wembley Stadium match, but that's certainly the next thing that should be happening. Or the Bucks are going to do business, lose the match, set up something that could really be the biggest thing in company history.
They do not have the balls or the guts or the penis or any of the other bodily parts or functions or bits to fucking work with Punk or to even talk to him like men because they're scared little kids hiding behind their fucking lawyers. So option B is not going to happen. Option A, we're going to fly our family over here, many of whom are on the payroll anyway, and we're going to have a big celebration winning in front of the big crowd, regardless of how it affects future business for the company that we're supposedly vice presidents of. That's what's going to happen. Prove me wrong, buckaroos. Prove me wrong, little buckaroos. Hee-haw! Yeah. Moving on. So we get another bro video of Cole and MJF, and this time Adam wants him to go to the trampoline park. And while Adam was acting like he was 12, jumping up and down at the opportunity to play on the trampoline and play the video games, MJF's looking around for pussy. There is none. So then he sees a dodgeball. And then much of the video is, and by the way, they have a special dodgeball now, don't they? That ball looks soft and green. What kind of dodgeball did they play dodgeball with when you were a kid?
Well, they use those rubber kickballs, but I don't know if they're going to use those at a trampoline park with kids bouncing all over the place.
Well, that's the thing. There was, because I used to get fucking those goddamn soccer balls chucked at me.
Soccer balls?
Well, they were the soccer balls or the volleyballs or whatever. They weren't goddamn fluffy Nerf balls.
Seriously, though, dodgeball's fun. Why didn't you just try to catch the ball and get someone else out?
Are you allowed to try to catch the ball?
You never caught the ball?
No, they always just told me to stand there in front of the fucking wall while they threw balls at me.
That's not dodgeball. That's a firing line.
Oh, well, no wonder it was different. But anyway, so the majority of the video is MJF in slow motion, artistically done with reaction shots from 6- and 7-year-old children, throwing the dodgeballs at the small children and them making ooh faces and how much it hurts, even though they're not bouncing off their goddamn face with any impact. And then the last shot of the video, it was the kids laying there making fake funny pain faces with their tongues stuck out. And then they get MJF and Adam Cole get flipped off by a 7-year-old girl. She gives them the finger. I hated this. It was so phony. I don't even mind if he's really pegging those fucking kids with a goddamn dodgeball and we see it in real time with one camera where it doesn't look fucking fake. That would have been funny. I'd like to bean a couple of the little crumb snatching rugrats too.
Oh, will you stop it?
But It's fucking phony the way these things are put together and presented and the way that they're doing it. And they're ruining MJF for me. I know everybody else getting a big kick out of it because wrestling is something you're just supposed to laugh at. But if anytime I see something that's obviously phony, I just roll my eyes. And this is it. What'd you think?
You know, I think they've gotten past the point of needing to keep doing these buddy videos because they're doing these videos every week and then they still do a live in-ring promo later on in the show. I think you could just stick with that. I'm not against the idea of doing these outside features. I'm against the fake reaction shots.
Yes.
And it was nothing but that. It was nothing but stylistic shots. If it was going to be Adam Cole goofing around and MJF doing his thing, even if it didn't have to be one camera, and it probably should be, maybe two at most, but it has to make sense. It can't be like, okay, we filmed this guy assaulting all of these children in slow-mo as close-ups.
Now let's get the children to come back and do reaction shots. Hey, bring the ambulance back. Can you just back it up in the parking lot? Just get the kids to come back for a couple more B-roll shots.
This is a promotion that made us think that they were afraid of any of this lawsuit stuff with Punk. In the last 2 weeks, Nick Wayne's been assaulted in his home on camera, and children in mass were assaulted by the World Heavyweight Champion.
Well, and hey, in a minute, one of their top baby faces is going to be assaulted by a member of security. So,
well, I'll just say this, though. For what you said earlier, you know, you're not a big fan of this. I like the in-ring stuff. I'm not a fan of this stuff with Adam Cole and MJF because they're clearly having a great time, and MJF's a really talented actor. But it gets to be too much of we're doing skits and all of that stuff. But all the other stuff in the ring is good, and they are over. They may be the most over thing in the company right now.
Yeah, well, the ratings seem to bear that out, too. They're the AEW Bloodline. And then we go to the AEW Mudline. For the FTW title, Jack Perry took on RVD. Remember, RVD is there at the behest of Jerry Lynn, and also because apparently he's the only person from ECW that can still walk fucking upright properly.
Should Jerry Lynn have been out there for this?
Well, he instigated it, didn't it? But then if he'd have been out there, it looked like they were ganging up on the heel, because all of the baby faces seem to have more people at ringside than the heels do.
Or on commentary, or just something. He was involved in this, and now he's no longer involved in it.
Well, he was just a means to an end. That's what happened to Jerry Lynn. We wish him well in his future endeavors. No, they can't be bothered to make this shit make sense from one week to the next, but RVD looks in a lot better shape than the Japanese legends, and you can't even say he worked an easy style in his promotion, ECW, for fuck's sake. But, I mean, again, I swear, I thought they were going to have a match, okay, and I'm not against bringing in an established veteran, legend, whatever the description, to put a new, young, up-and-coming heel over. But they did the first segment, and RVD did some of his stuff, and they go to the break, and they come back from the break. There's 3 chairs in the ring, a table set up at ringside. So what? Again, they can't even have a fucking match under these circumstances without having to do all the furniture. And then Van Dam drop-kicked Jack with a chair and puts the chair on Perry's stomach. And there's Jack Perry laying there, old Jungle Jack, on flat of his back in the ring. And RVD throws the chair down on his stomach, and Jack grabs the chair and holds it there. And then RVD turns and runs and hits the far ropes and does a forward roll and jumps up and does a cannonball and splashes the chair that Jack Perry was still holding on top of himself. And I wrote, what the fuck are they doing? And I guess then he put the chair on Jack again and went for the split-legged moonsault. But Jungle Boy rolled underneath the buckle, but RVD got stuck on the top rope and had to do an extra bounce. So by the time that he actually bounced off for the moonsault, Jungle Boy was already completely rolled out of the way, and people kind of went, ah. And then Jack threw the chair and hit the referee in the head. And boom, 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 somehow they got to the top rope while the referee's down, Jungle Boy and RVD, or Jack Perry and RVD, and Perry gouges RVD's eyes and then turned to his right and dove off the goddamn top rope and flipped through the table onto the floor, pretty much of his own volition. Did I miss something there?
No, I went back and watched that a couple of times. He was up on the top rope with RVD, and then he just decided to do a tumble salt off the top rope to the table. He wasn't hit or he wasn't pushed. They didn't make it look like that. They didn't try to make it look like that. He just dove onto the table.
Yeah. So then RVD got down there and rolled him in and hit a splash off the top and covered him, but there's no referee. And the people are counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And then here came referee Aubrey Ed coming in at a full gallop and dove right in. 1, 2, he kicked out. This is where, then right in front of Aubrey. And I know that we've already established it's no disqualification. Anything goes, FTW title, but right in front of Aubrey. Perry just nut shots RVD, hits him right in the balls, grabs him and real sloppily runs him into the post. RVD took a good one. Jungle Boy didn't know how to fucking throw him there. And then rolled him up and pulled the tights 1, 2, 3. So, how old is Rob Van Dam?
I looked that up.
And again, I'm older than he is, so I'm not making fun of him for being old. And he is a
52.
big name in wrestling. 52 years old. So, Jack Perry was just challenging for the world title and made to look weak in that build-up. And now he's just switched heel and practically needs a bazooka to beat a guy who qualifies for AARP, the American Association of Retired Persons. 52, you can get in. I did. They bumped the referee. RVD got a fall on him that the fans were able to count. Then Perry has to hit him in the nuts and post him and pull his tights to beat him. And he's not a full-time wrestler, and he's never appeared for this company before. How the fuck? And I know somebody was saying, oh, he'll get plenty of heat for cheating. The fuck? That only goes so far. That's what I thought of that. What'd you think of that?
I can't add too much more. The one positive I'll say is I think Jack Perry, as I said before, each week he leans into it a little more. He's a little more believable as this guy. The match itself, I didn't like. It just wasn't my kind of match, and we'll see what they do with Jack Perry. This is not really making me really excited to see him in Hook again.
Well, maybe they'll rematch him with RVD since it was so close this time. And then they can have a rubber match. All right, Renee Moxley Good was with Penthouse and Felix and Alex got to talk. And apparently they're baby faces even. And then Felix and Penthouse did a promo, and I don't know what the fuck they said, because they're unintelligible.
They said they're going to kick the shit out of the BCC, which is Renee's husband.
Well, then that's right. Renee was standing there against talking to the people that are, but her husband is bringing it on himself with all these people he's stabbing in the head with a screwdriver. So, but one would think that is somewhat of a conflict of interest. But then we got to the 9 o'clock hour. That's later on, the Lucha Brothers. We got 9 o'clock now, MJF and Adam Cole. They want to, so we need to check. The ratings aren't out as we speak yet, but we'll update you on the experience if we don't have it by the end of the program. I mean, MJF is pandering to the crowd, and obviously he's chewing up the scenery. I mean, he's Betty Davis in fucking Dark Victory. And, then he gets carried away, and after Adam talks for a minute, MJF thinks that he's being challenged to a promo battle and starts ripping Cole apart, including, you're so skinny and pale, if this was the 80s, Hulk Hogan would snort you. And Adam stopped him. And now Adam Cole has had the idea that since they failed to win the AEW tag team title, but they're brochachos or whatever, before their match for the world title at Wembley, they want to go after the Ring of Honor World Tag title on the pre-show, I guess. The only Ring of Honor title that he's never won, the tag team title. And he built it up. Adam Cole made Ring of Honor mean more with his promo here than AEW television has in the past year. That was very good. But MJF is saying wrestle twice in one night. Well, I'm a sucker for a cheap pop, so I'll agree. And I'm like, okay, I got to give it to him because now I wrote, what the fuck is going on? We never saw this coming. They're going to have a tag team match earlier in the night before they have their title match. And one would think that that gives another opportunity for something to take place between them. But if they win the Ring of Honor tag title, and then they go in to the world title match and have some type of breakup there, well, that would just be odd. But maybe that's what they're counting on us thinking. So at least they've got us thinking, which is more than this television program usually does for us.
Yeah, again, they have something with these two, but they still continue to tease dissension. I mean, now they're challenging for the AEW tag team titles on the pre-show.
Or no, the Ring of Honor.
Or Ring of Honor tag titles on the pre-show.
Luckily, they've got 7 promotions they can defend titles from.
But on the pre-show. So the world champion is going to be in a tag match on the pre-show, and they come out later for the match with Adam Cole, which I'm going to guess, we'll see. It may be more smoke and mirrors than match if they're already working earlier in the night and Cole has any limitations. But then the question becomes, and we've talked about it, does Cole turn on MJF, cementing MJF now as the babyface, and Cole can go back to what he did well? This is the first time he's been good as a babyface in AEW right now with MJF, and it's more comedy.
Yeah.
The Roddy Strong stuff is just weird.
Well, Roddy came out at the end of the promo here,
yeah.
and he's still wearing the neck brace, and he's bullshit. He can't believe what's going on. You want to win the Ring of Honor tag team title with MJF and not me? And then MJF tells Roddy off and calls him a bland bitch. And then Adam's mad because he don't want MJF talking to Roddy that way, but Roddy can't believe that Adam Cole would let MJF talk to him like that. And then Matt Taven and Mike Bennett come out and hug Roddy. And I know they've had stories going on other programs, but if they're going to feature Taven and Bennett as part of this, they need to put them on the regular television every once in a while.
Where's Maria?
A good question. And then Adam shoved MJF, but then apologized, and they hugged. And Adam left the ring to check on Roddy, while MJF stayed in the ring and was kind of bemused by the whole situation. But this was a 12-minute deal.
And again, now in the middle of it, beyond Roddy, Taven and Bennett have been mostly a Ring of Honor tag team. They're going to have a Ring of Honor tag match on the pre-show. It could play into that.
Who are the Ring of Honor tag team champions?
Aussie Open.
Ah, that's right, Ozzy Oldham.
So, again, it could play into that, or it could play into the actual match later in the show. I don't know if they would put Bennett and Taven in that kind of spot where they'd be interfering in the World Heavyweight Championship match. Again, I wonder where Kyle O'Reilly is on his journey back. But we shall see. I mean, I guess the best thing you could say about all this is no one knows what's going to happen.
All righty. Well, speaking of things that are going to happen, we got to talk for just a minute about the effort by the BBC on this program. The big advertised match was the BBC against the Lucha Brothers. And BBC, of course, being Claudio and the Plumber in this one. And the BBC, as usual, come out through the crowd, but the Lucha Brothers attack them from behind and they get started. Immediate dives. And what, Brian, are the Lucha Brothers doing now that is different from what they have done for the past 4 years on television every time you see them?
Nothing.
Same moves, same matches, same kind of stuff. There's no great promos, no memorable personal issues.
No, whether they're heel or face, it's the same thing usually.
Just a lot of moves. Well, they did some more moves. And the match was horrible, and I think the fans realized it at a couple of points.
I was surprised. Again, this is Ohio, how silent they were for Moxley throughout the match.
Well, it's Columbus, and they know the people down in Cincinnati are just, well, they're no good, dirty scum. But Moxley is the worst wrestler in the world. I noticed that again.
He's so bad. And every time we say that, some like weird, lonely person will be like, how out of touch do you have to be to say that about Jon Moxley? Well, because we watch him. We actually watch what he does, and he's really bad at being a pro wrestler. It's just that some of you like his personality because you believe it.
I have working optic nerves, so I can see what Moxley is doing, and he gets on those nerves. So Penthouse made a comeback. They went back and forth. There were more tags in and out. It would not end. And then Moxley and Penthouse got in the middle of the ring, and they did the chop trade on each other on purpose without selling 40 chops in rapid fire. Then nobody took a bump from any of that. They continued to do more moves. And I wrote Moxley is a fucking complete mark. Not only for himself, but he's just a mark.
And every match we have the spot where he's trading chops with someone. Or forearms.
Oh, yeah.
Every single match.
And then, did you like the Lucha Brothers Spike pile driver?
Did I like it? Did you like it?
So, Penthouse gets fucking... Was it Moxley? Yeah, I guess it was.
It was Moxley.
Yeah, up in a position for a pile driver, and Felix is going to come off the buckle and give him the spike, and Felix jumped off and went right past them. Completely right past a stationary target, and fell in a heap to the side of him, and then he just pile drived him anyway. For a 2 count. And there was no pop on the kick out because it was so obvious that they had just fallen in a heap. And then Yuta interfered in front of Aubrey Ed, and that made Alex and Yuta get in a fight, and Felix dove on Yuta, and Moxley, the camera missed how exactly this happened. I never caught it. The announcers had to catch up with it afterwards because they didn't see it to begin with. But Moxley rolled Penthouse up, and at the same time, somebody, Moxley, I guess, or whoever, had pulled Penthouse's mask off. So when Moxley rolled him up and pulled the tights, that was the 1, 2, 3 because Penthouse had his hands covering his face. And then the BBC got more heat, in quotation marks, on the Lucha Brothers, which was rotten because it looked like shit. So they just beat him and beat him up. And there you go.
They missed the mask spot, which had to be explained after the fact. They've given Yuta more wins over more people than he should ever have. Has it helped him? Does anyone care about him? He's just a little kid at ringside for these guys. And the match was not good. So, no, not good. Another segment, I give it 4 on the scale.
Wait a minute. Hold on here 1 second. Or maybe even... Or possibly...
Can you cut any of those short? If it was instead of 4 farts, it was 4 3/4 farts.
Hold on. Let me try. No, it won't go short.
All right, well, 5 farts. That was a 5 fart match.
Well, then Swerve was competing. Well, here he came, the whole Mogul Embassy of Champions.
What a modern-day Paul Jones army came out on the fucking stage. Just a random Samoan, Brian Cage wearing the face paint, Prince Nana acting it up.
Tia Leone, Bishop Khan, A.R. Fox in tactical gear, all dressed in hoodies and everything. Swerve, at least Prince Nana got to talk. He said a couple sentences. And then Swerve started talking. I can understand if you have Swerve with Nana, his manager, if you have Swerve with A.R. Fox. When he comes out with 7 people and they all look like idiots, does that help or hurt him by being in a group of nobodies?
I don't think any of this has been helping him. And again, this is going back to the original Mogul team with Rick Ross and the 2 tattooed freaks.
And they called Darby Allin out because that issue is ongoing. And Darby came out And Darby has found some emotion. I'm enjoying Darby's promos because at least he's into this, but he makes it sound real. He's like, I tried to help you, Fox. And you're really mad that I helped Nick Wayne? Well, I've got friends too. I mean, all that he had emotion and he's into it. He's not stumbling around or comatose or cruising on Lake Havasoma. But when he says he has friends too, the lights go out and they stay out for a long time. Do the WWF light blackouts go that long? Or
No,
are they better at getting people in position?
they typically don't go that long. I hate them every time, but also you don't always have a 60-something-year-old man you have to get into the ring.
That may be true. But when the lights came back on, guess what? Sting was in the ring with a baseball bat and he started thumping people. And that's when, did you see this? Somebody posted it on Twitter. But I saw it, I rewound it 17 times. I was captivated. Darby, when Sting is starting to hit people in the ring with his bat, Darby wants to chase, I guess was it Fox or Swerve? I can't remember now. But one of them. And Darby's in the entranceway. So Darby comes down the ramp and turns left and is chasing his intended prey, who jumps over the guardrail into the people and is running up the stairs. And Darby is going to jump over and run after him. But one of the security guys at ringside sees the heel jump over the rail and realizes, I got to follow him. So he starts too. And right as they get to the rail, the security guy, who looks like he's about 230, 240, and Darby, who looks like he's about 130, 140, they're neck and neck coming to the finish line. And right as Darby's going to jump over the goddamn deal, the security guard puts his hands on the rail and jumps up and throws his legs to the side to jump over the barricade and drop kicked Darby in the fucking head. And Darby goes head first over. He lands hung out like Aunt Lola's wash on top of the barricade with his feet wiggling in the air because he's stuck. His head's down low and his feet are up high and his midsection's over the barricade because he just got kicked in the side of the face. And the security guy takes off and goes and gets the heel. And that was the goddamnest thing. Now the security people are beating up the fucking wrestlers. And then, so it was Fox he was chasing because Sting beat up Swerve with the bat and then stopped beating up everybody he was mad at with the bat to point to the All-In banner. And Swerve escaped. That was a pretty big goddamn mess right there.
Yeah, by the way, this Wembley card doesn't seem like it's all that special, other than FTR Bucks, which doesn't mean today what it would have meant a year ago, and that's still a significant match. What other matches on this show seem really big?
Well, here's the thing. They don't need it. It's going to be, the people have willed it to be big. The people are going to love this if they go out and they drop their pants and they take a shit and then toast marshmallows. The people, it's a happening. The people have decided they were coming no matter what. And the people decided that they're goddamn going to like this. So they're bulletproof on this show.
That security guard, that's the same guy that's been almost like an unofficial member of the Blackpool Combat Club, because whenever Moxley goes into the audience, he's right next to him to make sure no one will touch him or hit him or whatever. That's also, I believe, the same guy that, remember we had a letter on the air way back? Someone went to an AEW house show and they were told by a security guard, if Punk ever comes back, this company will die. That's the same guy, the drop kicker. Only other thought I'll have about this, they set up something with Sting and MJF months ago when MJF and Darby were going at it, and they never followed up on it. So let's hope
they never do.
For no good reason, Sting in the middle of that came out there to insult the world champion, and there was never any kind of retribution. Just want to say that.
But think about this. We need to keep MJF and Sting in different social circles. Because I know Sting's going to jump off of something, although he may have learned this last time. He's just come back from, I'm sure he had to have some type of dental surgery. But MJF and Sting is not a physical matchup, even for a short burst of flurried, simulated violence that we want to see, is it? It can't end well for MJF.
No, it can't.
So let's just not remind him of that. Would you like to talk about the main event on the program?
You know what? Yeah, I would.
Did you watch it?
I did.
Well, I figured you would. One of your favorites is in it. The main event was for the AEW Women's title, Anna Jay versus Hikaru Shida. And I wrote at this point, so they're just forfeiting the final quarter. They're not even going to try. The entrances started at 12 minutes till. The bells was at 10 minutes till. They went to break at 8 minutes till. They came back at 5 minutes till. And Shida made a comeback and hit a knee lift 1, 2, 3. And I think at one point, they may have told her, maybe Cool Hand Luke or whatever, who jumped in and kind of, after the knee lift, Cool Hand Luke was at ringside and reached in and like grabbed Anna Jay's wrist and gave her the Iggy, like, stay down, we got 15 seconds on the air. I can't imagine what else that would have been.
I wondered what that was, actually. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that.
Well, I don't know what else it would have been, because it wasn't like he was trying to break the cover, pull her out. It meant nothing. The announcers were even confused. And I'm wondering if they were so close to going off the air, he was just like, no, this is go, just stay there. I don't know. Why wouldn't the referee say that? But what was he telling her when she was laying flat on her back in the fucking cover?
I don't know.
So they forfeited the last 12 minutes of national cable television time just because they figured, what the fuck? We know what's going to happen.
You know, I watched it. I think Sheeta's overrated in general, but I think Anna Jay has something. And, you know, her coming out there with no association with Jericho, but having Cool Hand and Magic Menard, or whatever their names are, as kind of her weird, they're not into her sexually, but they're not gay. They're just kind of friends, and they hang around and help her. There was something there. If they gave her the Jade Cargill push, Anna Jay, it would have worked better than with Jade, I think.
Well, yeah, because she actually kind of halfway wants to do this more than once a week for a fling for a while.
Yeah, I think if you watch Anna Jay, you could see someone who's trying to do this right. So it's not just that she's fine. I'm on her side because it appears that she's always trying to get better, and she's somewhat athletic, and she has some size, you know, and she could take bumps, and she's shown a willingness to take stupid bumps, But
you will agree that this was not a main event for a national television program that should be expected to garner high ratings.
This was a main event for a Rampage expected to garner the worst ratings in Rampage history.
Okay, I just want to make sure we were on the same page.
I wish we had the ratings right now. I'm dying to see these ratings now. You're talking me into it.
Well, yeah, so remember, folks, come back on the experience and we'll have the goddamn ratings, and then we will tell you what's what.